Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello and welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. I am thrilled to have Erle Dardick on the show today. Erle is best known for providing turnaround strategies to multi-unit restaurant operators and food manufacturers. For years, he's been helping his community members leverage their existing assets to drive new revenue channels. After owning and running a very successful retail, deli, and catering operation, Erle founded MonkeyMedia Software to provide web-based software, strategy, and education services to multi-unit restaurant operators. Specifically, MonkeyMedia helps restaurant operators grow sales and increase profits by educating them to become experts at feeding their customers where they live, work, and play. They achieve these results through their Get Catering and Grow Sales system, a toolkit for catering strategy, education, and software. We will dive into this and much more during the interview. Hello, Erle, and welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Well, so before we dive into the specifics of your business, how did you come up with the name MonkeyMedia Software, and what is its significance?
Well, in the early days when I had Tony's Deli and I was essentially trying to solve for doing the best job that we could in our catering operation, MonkeyMedia was upstairs in our building. And at that time, it was doing web-based animation. And when it started to look at my restaurant, and we started to essentially use a developer to solve for some of the business logic of executing catering out of a restaurant, MonkeyMedia stuck. And the name Monkey really comes from the early people that were involved. One of the partners was his brother's nickname was Monkey, and that was before MonkeyMedia became a software company. It was focused on web-based animation, and that's how that happened.
Wait, so you essentially bought the business and then turned it into a different business, but...
Yeah, well, my story really, the software venture, if you will, really stems out of solving a real world business problem in a deli that I own called Tony's Deli. So we were really not focused on a software company, but rather focused on restaurant operations, specifically on how to get food out to consumers where they live, work, and play. And out of that necessity of trying to solve for that business, we developed some very sophisticated technology that we started to take to market.
So do you still own Tony's?
I sold Tony's in 2004 because I had to make a decision. I had a greater calling in the restaurant industry, if you will, which was to really immerse myself into the software company because I felt that my higher purpose was really to make a difference in the restaurant industry. So what I really enjoyed doing was applying the business strategy of Tony's Deli to other restaurant companies, and we use our software to help reinforce that organizational structure, if you will.
Now, how did you get into Tony's? I mean, have you always been involved in the restaurant space, or is this something that you came to first with Tony's Deli and then it's just kind of morphed since then?
Yeah, well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I guess Tony's was probably my seventh business, I think. So I got involved in the deli because actually I was a customer at the deli and I was in a different business, and I was transitioning out of that business and then started to do some consulting for the deli that was really thriving at the time, and it had a whole bunch of different businesses. There was retail, there was wholesale, there was all kinds of revenue channels. And as I started to work on the business of Tony's Deli, sure enough, saw that there was a great opportunity to improve that business, and became a shareholder and bought my way into that company, and then started to work on the deli. That was back in 1997.
Well, so a segment of the audience, of the people listening, is made up of people who are right now deciding sort of what their calling is, what kind of entrepreneurial venture they want to get into, whether they want to start something themselves, whether they want to get into franchising, perhaps multi-unit operations. And I think something that would be kind of interesting to touch upon is, you said that Tony's Deli was really your seventh business. I'm curious, can you take us back to when you started your entrepreneurial journey and the various businesses that you've owned and sort of how you've come to where you are at this very moment?
Right. Well, I guess my first business venture goes back to my late teens. So this is not far from when I was out of high school, and I had a friend of mine that was essentially buying out leather bankruptcies in Montreal, Quebec. And he was basically buying container loads of, in those days, leather was big, leather ties, leather jackets, leather purses. Yeah. And so he would basically buy these containers and then ship me these boxes of goods, which I would then go to the flea markets and essentially got tables and started to see if I could sell these leather goods at flea markets, and that was a successful venture for me at a very, very young age. And then through that, just continued through my studies, and then I always did some small businesses on the side. Another business I did was I had an advertising business, which was essentially called Advans way back. That was my only failed venture that didn't work for me on the way, and a lot of lessons learned in that. I was in safety supplies, leasing portable oxygen equipment. I was in the lighting business for a while. So, and then I got into the deli through just what I learned on the way was sort of this intuitive process of fixing. I'd like to buy things and fix them was really sort of what this all came to eventually. So I found something with cash flow.
What was the lighting business you were in?
Basic lighting for homes. I had a friend of mine who had a line of manufacturers that we would go into the builders, develop relationships, and sell light fixtures into the houses on new construction. And here in British Columbia, construction has been a very big thing for many, many years. We continue to grow and thrive. It's a very high growth development area here in Vancouver.
Well, no, the reason I asked is my first foray into franchising outside of, being a sandwich artist at Subway at the age of 16. when I worked there was in the franchise lighting business. This was before I went to law school. After I graduated college, I worked for a 5-year period, and I helped a local lighting franchise grow their operations. And they were high-end residential, but they too worked a lot with developers and in the construction side. So I was just curious if that was with a franchise, your lighting experience.
No, but that wasn't. But Oxygen Leasing business was a franchise. My father actually was the representative of the British Columbia territory of what was 70 offices across North America. And so there was a master franchisee in Montreal, and then, of course, there was the main franchisee down in the U.S. And so I'm very intimate with the dynamics inside franchise communities, which I actually apply today because we work, of course, we extend our services. We teach franchise systems how to do catering out of a restaurant organization. So we're deep in the franchise community.
So I know you came up with that concept while you owned Tony's Deli, but was there a moment that it just kind of, you said, oh, this is what I need to do, this is what was, what led to that moment? Well, I think it was probably a series of moments, but essentially, I had spent probably the better part of 5 years really improving Tony's Deli and building this catering operation and all the challenges that had. And then, of course, basically what happened was around the time of 9/11, if you remember, the tech sector blew up. There was a lot of spending stopped. We had a government change here in British Columbia. 9/11 happened. So there was a lot of, at that time was tenuous. And what I experienced in the beginning of 2002, which is typical as an entrepreneur, is my business declined. It had been growing for 5, 6, 7 years in a row. It was doing very well. 2002 came along. It got difficult. And in that process, started to look for other ways. And it was just by happenstance that I met a man who was in the restaurant business who was coming to look at my operations and saw my technology and said, wow, this is amazing. Hey, we could really use this. And another business was born. That's how that happened. It came out of a lot of suffering, if you will. Well, yeah, isn't that how a lot of them come up, right?
for sure. Absolutely.
You're in a position where everything's going great. You're kind of coasting along, and then it's like, bam, okay, I got to figure this out a little bit differently.
Yeah, you're trying to find the market all the time, right? So certainly, for if you're if you really have the entrepreneurial bug or spirit that lays, you're constantly looking for new and exciting things and trying to find markets. That's what you're doing.
Well, it's clear to me you definitely have that entrepreneurial bug, and you've been through that journey. Let's break down your business right now, the Monkey business, MonkeyMedia business, and I know it's got several parts to it, and yes. I'd love if you can maybe just in a broad way tell us a little bit more about it, and then we can go down each sector of it and break it down, because I think it's a really interesting business.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, ultimately, Josh, what we do is we really focus on a full system approach to restaurants, because what I experienced at Tony's Deli was a very profitable operation, and it became that profitable organism because catering was a huge piece of that puzzle as we figured out the business. We brought technology, we raised sales, and I learned on the way that really catering out of restaurants was fundamental to the business strategy. But in fact, and if you look at restaurants, there's 1 million restaurants in the United States, $700 billion worth of sales this year. You'll see that catering was an afterthought. It wasn't something that was, front and center. It was always, it came out of the back end of their restaurants in a way that wasn't very planned or designed. Now, the thing is, when you grow catering out of restaurants, you create a set of complexities which is basically layering incremental sales on top of existing restaurant assets. And if the asset has not been designed for the manufacturing and distribution of those products, it can become very challenging at some point when you get enough scale in the process. And so what we learned, it took us a long time to figure this out about ourselves, was that although we had software as a product and a service, because we're a software as a service-based product, where you can use the technology to take orders, to figure out all your manufacturing, where your deliveries are going, manage your payments, your accounts receivable, that in fact, although the product did that, if you didn't have the business strategy, and your people did not understand what your business was, the technology would fail. In a sense, it would never get deployed. And so out of that came the necessity of really creating what we call the Catering Institute, which is really the development of people, because what we're really doing is we're framing the conversation out in the marketplace, which is to show them a methodology, if you will. We call it the 5 steps of restaurant catering, 5 pillars of restaurant catering, which really is specific to making sure that you have all the elements in place you need to succeed as a business. And then, of course, you come in with software behind it. So our services have grown into consulting, program development. We have a school called the Catering Institute where we do certification. We certify franchisees. We train their drivers, their salespeople. We have products now that educational products. We have an e-learning platform and ecosystem that our customers use for setting standard. And then, of course, we have a full software division in our company that brings the intellectual property of all those ideas into a control mechanism that our customers use to control their catering operations.
And so, are you approaching franchises that already have catering as a part of their business, or in a lot of cases, are you introducing catering to them and basically pointing out the numbers and saying, look, you guys are missing out on a big piece of the pie, not only in actual hardline sales to the bottom line, but what a great opportunity to introduce your product to more people in the marketplace?
100%. But the answer is both. I mean, we're really having a conversation with the entire restaurant industry. So in that mix is we get franchisors that are coming to us and saying, hey, we don't have a program. Can you help us develop one from scratch? We have some franchisors that are saying, hey, our franchisees are often doing this on our own. We really got to get a handle on it. We have to bring more services to the franchisees so they can succeed, which is part of our part of the model. We also have franchisees that are driving it. So we get franchisees that are in our communities that are driving their own catering strategies. Because in some of the systems we work in, just within their own right, there's sizable businesses. So for example, we might work with a franchisee that has 14 stores of a brand or 100 stores of a brand. But the brand itself might have 1,000 stores, right? Everybody's a bit different, and we approach each one differently.
Well, so, and there's a big difference, I mean, right, between the software side, and obviously you do the catering and the educational piece, which I think is a brilliant idea, by the way. I mean, now you're teaching people, and essentially you're funneling them right into your software solution as well, which is a natural fit. But what do you do then? I mean, you mentioned that some of these franchisors come to you and say, hey, develop the system for us. Well, that to me seems like something that's far different from the actual software, right? Because the software is sort of like, here's something that'll help you measure it. Here's something that will provide you with that kind of support. But putting an entire plan together, is that something different?
Yeah, we're a consultancy. So on the Catering Institute, we call it the Catering Institute. We have basically two buckets of services. We have a consulting division where we go in and we help you build your business plan. We optimize the menus. We help you even with your recruiting. We help you with your training of we need to get a good leader in place. We help you with the packaging on your products. We do all of that. And then, of course, a good plan for rollout to the franchisees. So that's on the consultancy side. And then, of course, after consultancy, one of the recommendations often is training. We need to have a training system for best practices for the franchisee community as well as their people. And we're sort of, they use us as the standard, if you will, to train those systems as far as people development are concerned.
So what led you to focusing or targeting the franchise model, specifically the multi-unit owner? I mean, why not single independent operating restaurants? Was it just not something that was really viable for them?
It's a good question, and I struggle with that a lot because, I mean, the ideas are scalable, whether you have one restaurant or whether you have multi-restaurants. There's just a question of economies of scale. So what happens is the power inside a franchise system or a multi-unit restaurant environment is you can distribute cost across a greater number of assets. And so it's similar effort, whether you have one store or you have 30 stores. The concepts are the same and the effort's the same. So, but saying that, there are independents that are starting certainly to take advantage of our resources, our content, our educational materials are going into the single unit restaurant operators. It's just more on the technology side. Technology has not become cheap enough yet for those single unit mom and pops, and over time it may. But it just hasn't. It's just not there yet.
But you will work with somebody who comes to you and says, "Hey, look, we have the resources, right?" I mean,
absolutely, yeah, we have some. Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's hard to put it in a can, because for us it's about the 5 pillars of restaurant catering. So if you come to us and you have leadership in place, you come to us and you're committed to centralized services, you have a sales team that's out canvassing the catering mission and language and products and prospecting, and then you have a world-class delivery program and your operations are in order. If you're the right characteristic of a client, then we absolutely consider it, because we know that it's people that drive businesses, and they're the ones that are successful with our tools. And we also learned that sometimes the early guys or small guys are the ones that grow to be big guys. So we go through an assessment process here to take the right projects.
So take a minute, talk about the actual financial impact that that the catering aspect is having on not only operations for the franchisors, but also impacting the bottom line of the individual franchisees across the system.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting conversation because franchisees to succeed have to buy into the business strategy. So at their restaurant level, they have to participate in the catering program for it to be successful. So they have to really make sure that they focus on flawless execution at the store level, which is the fulfillment of orders and getting them on time and accurately and so on. Because we know that a catering customer, when you access them and you do a good job for them, they come back, and these are people that are spending, maybe $10,000 or $12,000 with the brand. So a franchisee has to, first of all, be very committed to the program. It's a lot of hard work for them, and we see a lot of franchisees who just frankly don't want to work that hard. So you get a lot of, later in their franchisee lives, they've now, they're at the end of their cycle. So the ambition and enthusiasm from the franchisee is massive in the success factor of it. And essentially, the ones that commit to the procedures and do the daily tasks and take care of business, we see some franchise systems that have or restaurants rather, that can see upwards of 1/3 of their business, 33% of restaurant sales is catering. And so if you have $1 million operation, and now you imagine what 330,000 looks like on top of that, catering is an incredibly profitable venture for these restaurants. Okay, so those are sort of the top lines. Tony's Deli was 50%. But we were very focused on it.
Now, are there certain restaurants that are just better suited for catering?
Yeah, certainly, it's all about creating the right experience. And so it's really about menu design. And here's the big thing, the epiphany that always happens for me, is that restaurants think that their catering experience has to be the same as their in-store experience. But in fact, we know if we create a differentiated program from in the restaurant that's different from takeout and different from dine-in, in fact, we have buyers. So let me give an example. We have a casual dining brand, burgers, ribs, salmon, broccoli, all that. And they were trying to get catering going on these products. And of course, they had a very difficult time doing it. It wasn't until we pulled out and said, listen, we're going to create a simple salad bar program that you can deliver, and a platter of sandwich program, and beverages and desserts, a very simple program for catering focused at lunch on the corporate community to make it easier on operations. So we created a subset of the experience for the boardroom table, and sales soared. Sales start to go up very rapidly. So to answer your question, it's all about the restaurant operator that's willing to get out of the box to create a subset of their experience on a different market. And you're tapping into a consumer that wants to spend more money with you.
Now, do you also help then with the marketing afterwards that's going to be required to get the word out? Taking a restaurant that maybe for instance, someone that had not done catering and now you're introducing catering to them. Is that part of what you provide?
Yeah, we help with all of that. We also have at the Catering Institute, we created a faculty, so we have other subject matter experts like marketing experts who are on our faculty, and we bring them in to help our customers often. So if a customer says, hey, we need help with our catering marketing, I often connect them with our faculty member, and then they are a marketing expert and help them with their branding and messaging.
Well, so within, I spent some time looking at your website, and I will say this, within the first 2 minutes of spending time on your website, it is obvious that you guys work hard and you play hard. You like to have a good time. I can tell you're passionate about what you guys do and your people are having fun. How important is it for you as you started this company and all the companies you've worked with? How important is company culture to what you're doing in your business and also with the franchises that you're working with?
Yeah, this is a great question. I believe, the differentiator out in the marketplace in any venture of what makes companies great is the ones that have a sense of purpose. So if you have a very clear sense of who you are and what your purpose is, that creates an incredibly deep belief system. And if you have that belief system, that's really what brings you through. Because business is very difficult. It's very hard to grow a business. It's very hard to keep people engaged. So I'm a big believer in culture, and we spend a lot of time here not only talking about it, but trying to identify it, trying to capture it, trying to teach it, and so on. And of course, on the other side of that is, this is an interesting question because we usually find often our best projects that we take as a company in terms of the partnerships of our customers are other companies that have aligned cultures. So they have very strong culture, and there's usually a connection in terms of philosophy and not so much political stuff, but certainly philosophically how we look at our people, how we look at our team, and what's important to us as people.
So you're doing a lot of educating of the marketplace right now, right? Because is there anybody else that's really as focused on this as you guys are in the marketplace?
Yeah, no, it's kind of, I've been, the answer to your first question is yes, we're doing a lot of educating. It's always been that way. And we're actually trying to do more of that. We have been sort of standing in this zone or this space for many years, as you know, probably because we know it to be true to us. In other words, we had the experience at Tony's Deli. We know what the bottom line looked like. We know the cash flow this business brought to the deli. And so we're out there, speaking about this. And for many, many years, probably, 10 anyways, nobody was really listening, That's the truth,
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Has that been a challenge for you, or maybe it was at the outset, but not so much? I mean, how much time are you spending now trying to get in and get sort of the ear of these multi-unit operators versus them finding you?
Well, we've got a good mix now. The nice news is, we have enough experience behind us and customers and data that, we do get a flow of regular inquiry coming in, but we're still doing an incredible amount of work prospecting out there because, we want to grow and we need more business as well. And, there's 1 million restaurants in the United States. I mean, we can't possibly get to everybody. It's not possible. So there's a lot of people that have not heard about us. And, we'd like to have a conversation with them.
Well, there's one thing that's for sure about the United States. We like to eat.
Yes, that's for sure.
And there's the food concepts are just, it's amazing to me. I mean, the number, it's always growing. It's always a growing sector. But every single thing, I mean, you've just seen a huge expansion into different kinds of food operations, which obviously has got to be exciting for you guys.
Yes. Well, we're seeing a big convergence. So what's happening in the restaurant industry specifically, in the consumers, with all the millennials coming up, and everybody wants healthier, everybody wants more convenience. And as you'll see, as the grocery segment starts to come in for that restaurant dollar, you're seeing the drugstores, that are coming in, Target, Walmart, they're all coming into the space, and convenience stores. And so if you start looking at the reasons why that's happening, is because we have a very savvy consumer today. Materials are available to us at a rate that's easier than ever before in the history of the world, and technology is actually what's enabling all of it, because consumers, are creating demand, and so essentially they're getting busier and busier, and they just want to eat more, out, and they want it brought to them, and they want it brought to them now, So
well, it's a society of convenience, right? And that's 100%. Really what you're offering. I mean, that's a huge part of it, right? I mean, now we've got so many 2-income families. People are busier than ever. I mean, it's kind of the irony of the whole thing is that we have technology and we have software and things that in theory now make things as easy as they've ever been, but yet we're all busier than we've ever been.
Oh yeah,
and there's never enough time in the day. Before I let you go, I've got to ask you this question: who's that kid in your video on your website under the Let's Talk Catering tab? I love that video. I just think it's brilliant.
He's a great kid. We have a video group here, and I don't know. I don't actually even know his name. I probably should. But
you got to know his name.
I actually don't. I'm gonna go find out though right after this call, because I should be able to answer that question. But unfortunately, I don't know his name, or I was told and I forgot. But he's just this great kid that was came in and played the part, and he's really speaking language from my book that I wrote, and which is called Get Catering and Grow Sales, and that's where he got the subject matter from.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's a great video, and for anybody who wants to check it out, please go do it. But it's really I think it's brilliant marketing. And thank you, Erle, for spending a few minutes with me today. And I think your business is doing great things. I really, really love the concept, and I've got some people in mind right now that I'm going to tell about your concept. But tell people before we go how they can get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you, and if they want to find out some more information.
Yeah, sure. They can always go to our website, which is www.monkeymediasoftware.com. And my name is spelled Erle, E-R-L-E, at monkeymediasoftware.com. And anybody who has any questions, just send me a note.
Well, thanks again, and we look forward to following your continued success.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.